In this program, we're going to calculate fuel efficiency, and we're going to learn how to use try-parse. So the idea is that users can enter in miles or kilometers, gallons or liters, and we'll divide and find their fuel efficiency. But let's look at an issue we had in a previous program maybe you didn't realize. So we'll go back to our donut shop, and I'll run the program, but instead of typing in numeric data, I'll type in a word, woof, and then press enter. Bad news. That crashes the program. The input string was not in the correct format. It could not be parsed into an integer. You can't get an integer out of woof. Maybe you asked your dog what your dog was saying with woof. You don't know if it's an integer or what it is. It doesn't work out. We don't want our programs crashing. So we're going to have a strategy in this program using something called try-parse to help us out. Well, going to need a couple of text boxes. So I'll start with one text box and get it set up the way I like it and I'm going to call it txt distance. I'm not sure if they're going to use miles or kilometers. And I'll have another text box. I simply copy and pasted what I had there. And I'll call this txt fuel because I'm not sure if what they want is going to be gallons or liters. We want to take care of our users from all around the world. Plus, I was told in elementary school that we were going to go to the metric system, and it still hasn't happened yet. Next, I'll put some labels on the side. I'm not going to change their names. I'll change their text to let the users know what the purpose of the text boxes are. So I'll tell them to enter the distance in miles or kilometers for one label, and in a second label I'll tell them to enter the fuel used in gallons or liters. But I'm not changing the names of those labels. Nothing will happen to them. But I do have txt distance, txt fuel. We're going to need a label for our answer. So I'll go get another label, and you don't have to place things where I am. I'm doing this here. I'm going to change the name of it from label 3 to LBL answer. You might call it LBL result or LBL fuel efficiency, whatever you want to call it. But this one definitely has to have a name. That's where the result of our calculation is going to go. Once I've got it set up the way I like it, I'm going to take the text out. Well, we'll need some buttons to make some action happen. So the first button I'm going to have, I'll call it BTN calculate. You could call it BTN enter or whatever you want. I'll put the text here with an ampersand in front of the C for calculate. And then I'll get another button by copying and pasting this one since it's set up the way I kind of want it. And the purpose of this button will be to reset the form or clear. I'm going to use reset because I've already used the letter C for calculate. So I'll just go ahead and call this one BTN reset. And then for the text, I'll type reset and put an ampersand in front of the R. And then we'll need one more button to exit the program. So once again, I'll use copy and paste to get myself a button that I will change to BTN exit. So I'll place this down here in the bottom right, and I'll change the name to BTN exit, and the text to exit. I'll put the ampersand in front of the X. So a lot of the form is all set up. While I'm thinking about it though, I'll check out some other things going on. Let's check out the tab order. I want that first text box, txt distance, to have a tab index of 0. It does. Txt fuel to be 1. BTN calculate, I want that to be 2. And then I want reset to have a tab index of 3. And exit to have a tab index of 4. And I also want to assign an accept button. I want calculate to be the button that is triggered when users press enter when they're in a text box. So notice I'm on form 1 properties, not the properties for BTN calculate. I'm on the form 1 properties, and that's where we can assign the accept button BTN calculate. I'll quickly check this out to make sure I've got the tab index values the way we want them. So the cursor is moving down and over and down. Looks good. Let's write code for the exit button. That's pretty simple to do. This .close will end the program. Make sure I have that line of code in with a semicolon and not a full colon. Test this out real quickly. Should not be an issue. And it does exit. Now it's time for the big star of the show. We want to divide the distance by the fuel to find out what our fuel efficiency is. That's going to happen in the calculate button. It's okay to use decimals in this program. The miles or kilometers might be decimals. The fuel used might be decimals. So we're going to use double instead of int. And I'll use variables distance and fuel and answer. I could have called it result or fuel efficiency or something like that. But I'll just use these variables. Those would be the identifiers. And here's where the tricky part could happen. The program could crash when we try to get values out of the text box. So I'm going to set up a try-catch block. First comes try, and then notice it's expecting a catch or a finally. So here's catch. And I notice I'm putting braces there because there's a try part of the block, or a try block and a catch block. They go together. So I'll let myself know that brace ends a try-catch block. So what I want to try to do is get data out of the text boxes and assign them to the variables. So I want distance to be assigned the value that's in txt distance.text. I'll use double.Parse because it could be a double. So instead of int.parse, I'll use double.Parse. Same idea for the fuel. I want to use double.Parse from txt fuel.text. Remember, we always take what's on the right-hand side of that equal sign and assign it to the left. So it's going to look inside txt-fuel.text, find a string inside there, convert it to a double, and then assign it to the variable fuel, as long as it's possible. So we'll get data from the text boxes. If there's a problem there, we're going to end up in the catch block. We'll see that in a little bit. Well, we'll calculate our fuel efficiency by dividing distance and fuel. So distance divided by fuel on the right, we will assign that value to answer on the left. And then we want to display this result. The number is sitting inside answer. I'll put it in lblanswer.text, and in quotation marks I'll say you got, and then answer, that numeric value. And I don't know if it's miles or kilometers they got per gallon or liter. I'll try to accommodate all those things here. And you'll notice that I didn't put .toString on answer, and we're not going to get a red squiggle. Because this numeric value is part of a string, it doesn't have to have .toString. Although we're going to find it handy in a moment. So I'll enter in some test values and see how this looks. And we've got some issues. Got a super long decimal, and I don't have any space between my number answer and that word miles/kilometers. So I need to put a space there, which I forgot to do. Let's see if that helps. It did. And we still have this very long decimal. So we really do need to invoke that .toString method and then put in the parentheses and inside the quotation marks how many decimal places we want. I'm going to go with just one. So I'll use N1 in quotation marks. That goes inside the parentheses after toString. You can go with however many decimal places you like. This is all one line of code. That little glyph over there to the right is because I have word wrap on. It would go off to the right-hand side of the screen. It's all one line of code. So there we go. That looks a lot better. Now, if you want a new line to display in your label, we can force that to happen with a \n. That backslash is above your enter key. So that is a character that indicates we want a new line to happen. So now, after it says you got, it will jump down to a new line in the label. There it is. If you want another one, you can put another one in there. Maybe you want one after the answer is displayed and before it says miles. Well, if there's a new character, we really don't need that space, so I'll get that out. But put the \n in, and now we'll get a new line character right before miles, kilometer. So \n inside quotation marks will get us a new line with whatever immediately follows. Well, let's test out the try-parse with woof and meow. Hey, the program doesn't crash. But to the user, it looks like nothing's happening. They might click and click and click and click and think the program's broken. We're really proud of ourselves because it didn't crash, but we've got to give the users an error message and let them know why nothing is happening. So let's go into the catch block. This is where the code is going to end up, or the program is going to execute when an exception is thrown, when there's a problem getting data out of the text boxes. So let's give them a message. We'll tell them something nice but useful to please enter only numeric data, or something like that. That's the first, what we call argument. The second argument would be the caption at the top of the message box. If you don't want one there, you still have to put blank quotation marks. Next, message box buttons.OK. That's all we've really got right now. And then I'll put a comma. Again, this is all one line of code. Message box icon, and I'll go .error. But I have word wrap on. That's why it may look like it's two lines of code. It's not. It's all one line of code. So now users will understand why no calculation happened. Let's check it out. I'll type woof into the first text box and a number in the second one, and there's the error message. You might even get an error message sound. I'm speaking over that right now. I'll put a number in the top text box, and I'll put moo in the second one, and there again is the error message, letting us know that we need only numeric data, which when I put that in, it all works out just fine. So try, catch, help that whole situation. We have a lot of code inside the try. We don't want to do any division or any displaying if there's a problem. Now I'm way out to the left. Look, I went way out to the left in the gray beyond line 34 to the left, and I left clicked. That gives us a break point. You might need to pause the video to do that yourself. I'll do 215 divided by 19 and press calculate, and the program will pause or make a break right here. There's a bunch of information on the bottom that we'll get into at a later date. And I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to look for, there's a couple places where you're going to see step into with a little arrow pointing down. There's some other choices as well, but I'm going to use one of the step intos. And I will click it to move one line of code at a time. So I'll click it, move down, notice the yellow moved down one line, and in red, distance just became equal to a value. Fuel just became equal to a value when I clicked it again. I'll click it again and get to LBL answer.text. Notice that that answer just changed. And you can just go line by line of code. If you want to just keep continuing, you can press that green button. Now let's type in something not so good. I'll type in ARF and press calculate. Once again, the program pauses on line 34 because we have a breakpoint there. And I'll take a step and look what happens. We jump right down to the catch or drop down to the catch. An exception has been thrown, but instead of splattering onto the ground, we are caught like a safety net in the catch. And now is when the message box is going to show up with the error message to the users. So again, it's called throwing an exception. It was not what we were expecting. And we end up in the catch block, and whatever code is in the catch block will execute. And everything else in the try gets skipped after that point, which is good. We don't want to do any of that other stuff. It would cause more problems. All right, let's take care of the reset button, and we'll reset the form. We need to wipe the text that is in the text boxes out. I can do txt_distance.clear, or I can do txt_fuel.text equals nothingness. That's how we have to attack the label. LBL answer.text equals absolutely nothing. And then we want to assign the focus to the first text box so that the users are all set to enter in some new data. So we'll put the focus or the cursor in that first text box. We will test this out now. And press reset. And there we go. Got the cursor right back into that top text box. Hit reset again. I'll type in some bad data. I'll type 9 followed by some letters on the bottom row of the keyboard. And then when I try to calculate that, it doesn't work out. Only numeric data. We should also put in text changed events. So you should go back to the design of your form, double click on a text box, and make LBL answer.text equal absolutely nothing for both text boxes. I'm going to leave that for you to do. Try catch helps us out so that the program doesn't crash, and we have an opportunity to let users know how come what they were expecting didn't happen because we had a problem. But it didn't crash our program.